Welcome to Growing Pains, a podcast of the Sumner County Republican Freedom Caucus. I'm your host, Deanne DeWitt. We discuss the challenges of a thriving Sumner County on this podcast. And at the heart of why we do it is because local elections have consequences. So today, I'm thrilled to have our Secretary of State, Tre Hargett. At the heart of elections, you are the man. So thank you for being with us.
Thank you, ma'am.
We'll cover a little bit of ground in this conversation. Of course, your office covers quite a bit. So I think it would be helpful for listeners to just start there. Maybe not everybody understands. What does a Secretary of State do? You've been doing it since 2009, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, this is the 18th year. I used to have dark hair, actually. So it's nice to have the opportunity to come and talk a little bit about it. This time of year, it feels like I get to talk to a lot of different leadership groups and talk about the breadth of things that we do. But typically, people know us for one of a few different reasons. Obviously, people know about our role in elections, and I'm sure we'll talk some more about that later on. But we work with all 95 county election commissions, those bipartisan election commissions, to make sure that every eligible Tennessean gets the opportunity to vote, but also to know that they can trust in the results of the elections and know their vote's not being canceled out by somebody who's voting illegally. And we'll talk more about that later, I'm sure. We also play a big role in the world of libraries. We work with libraries around the state, especially rural and suburban libraries, to provide three major things. And we do this working through the regional library system. Is we provide technology. So if you go to your local library and pull it, use the computer and it's properly networked, you're able to get on the internet, there's a good chance that we help purchase that technology. And we have network consultants who, especially in rural areas that may not really have an IT person, make sure there's connectivity there. Materials, there's a good chance if you pull a book off the shelf, you'll see it's property of the regional library system. We've got tens of thousands of books in libraries across the state of Tennessee that have been purchased with state taxpayer dollars and go back to the local level. And then the last thing is we train local librarians. We have a team through the Tennessee State Library and Archives and our regional library systems to make sure that librarians are able to properly serve their community. And the next thing I'll mention is a lot of people come in contact with us. It's fitting we're sitting here in the shadow of the Chamber of Commerce, is we play a big role in the world of business. And anytime somebody gets ready to form a corporation, a limited liability corporation, limited liability partnership, nonprofit corporation, one of the first steps they take is coming to our office, or I say come to our office. That's old fashioned. They can do it online. They mail it in, but most are doing it online nowadays. And we handle into the hundreds of thousands of transactions each and every year, helping businesses stay current and making sure that other businesses or people that want to do business with those companies know that they are properly filed and legitimate in the state of Tennessee. And, just to give you one small fact about that line of work is they took over 250,000 phone calls last year. In fact, in 1 week alone last year, they took over 25,000 phone calls.
Was that like April 15th-ish? Or maybe a different filing deadline?
No, it would have been in the April timeframe. Yeah. I mean, so leading up to that, we had a new system. People were confused by the new system, need a lot of help. But, we got all those growing pains now and doing well. But we touch a lot of people in this state. And we get the opportunity to serve our fellow Tennesseans in ways big and small. Sometimes it's one individual, sometimes it's one family, sometimes it's one business, sometimes it's millions. And it's up to us to try and figure out how to give people the type of state government they so richly deserve.
Well, that's an interesting piece of the puzzle I hadn't thought about, just the scope of things. Yeah. I have a sole proprietorship, so I've done some business, and I've set up a nonprofit, so I've done some business with your office, and great customer service, by the way.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sometimes I might struggle to find my way on the website, and like you said, especially with a new system, there might be some staggering things there, but when I place a phone call, I've gotten excellent help.
I know you're a lot younger than I am, but
I don't think so.
You probably would not remember the Life cereal commercials.
Oh, yes.
Give it to Mikey, he'll eat anything.
Give it to Mikey.
We're kind of like the Mikey of state government. When nobody else wants something, they look at us and say, give it to Mikey, he'll eat anything. And so we have a lot of different things that probably don't fit logically together, but they went up in the Secretary of State's office. And one of the things I've taken a great deal of pride in over the years is we've been given things. What I tell people is we've been given an opportunity to serve our fellow Tennesseans in some way the legislature has deemed necessary. We could kind of try and give it the Heisman and act like we don't want to do it. And we see it as an opportunity to try and give the taxpayers the type of state government they so richly deserve and prove that it can be done well, it can be done efficiently and effectively. And that's a great opportunity to touch others.
I don't know if you saw me kind of giggling a little bit when you said that, but I was picturing Mikey in a helmet doing the Heisman when you just said
that. That is quite the visual. I never would have thought about Mikey doing the Heisman. So
I think it all ties together now. Yeah. It makes perfect sense. I did not know the piece about the libraries. I know when you were in the state legislature for a period of time,
yes,
right?
Yes, ma'am, for 10 years.
10 years, representing Memphis, right?
Mostly Bartlett and part of Memphis.
Okay.
So, yes, ma'am.
And maybe it was part of that tenure where you worked a little bit on getting the state library moved to Bicentennial. Was that part of it? Or did that happen during that time frame? Something?
There were the plans for it developed during that time while I was in the legislature. But I have to admit to you, outside of only appropriations, I can't take any credit for that.
Got it.
But what did happen after I became the Secretary of State is the team said, hey, we've got these plans to move to the Bicentennial Mall. We'd like to have a new building. Here's why they sold me on why we need a new building. And, and now we're fortunate to have, I think, one of the best state library and archives buildings in the entire country and we went from that. Wow. We had the oldest library and archives in the country without a major renovation, without any updating. And now we've got one of the best. And if people haven't gone down to Bicentennial Mall and visited our library and archives and visited the museum, they need to come do it. There's something for everybody there.
I don't know why I'm trying to remember his name. One of the architects, the key architects that helped design the Bicentennial.
Probably Kim Hinton.
Kim Hinton,
would be the
yes.
name most people recognize.
Yes, I've been on a tour with him of Bicentennial Mall, and I've taken friends there to show it off as much as I can. It's it's not a field trip that people think they want to sign up for, and then they get there and are just blown away.
Kim probably deserves more credit than he gets. Most people don't know who Kim Hinton is, but Kim really had a visualization, a dream for what that Bicentennial Mall could look like, and
every square foot is meaningful.
Yeah,
I mean, there is so much intentionality in what's been captured in a way that's just beautiful and inspiring, and it means a lot. So, okay. I told you before we got on air, I was going to out that you are a Sumner County resident.
Yes,
ma'am. Tell us, what do you think makes Sumner County special?
What I like about Sumner County is real people. And that's one of the things that my wife and I identified as whenever we were making the move over here back in 2008 about where we wanted to come and live. And it just seemed like a lot of real people who were a lot like us that had good American values. One of the things that makes, this probably sounds very silly, but one of the things that still gives me chills to this day is at Drakes Creek Park, whenever all the children are out there playing soccer, they're out there practicing or whatever, and whenever the high school soccer team gets ready to play a game and they play a national anthem, everybody in that park stops and everybody turns to that flag. And nobody has to be told, hey, this is what we do. It's part of who we are. It's just very much a great American patriotic city and county to live in. I think represents the best of Tennessee.
That's a great point. Do you have a military background, or your
my father was the adjutant general of the Tennessee National Guard.
Oh, got it. Okay. Were you then originally from Tennessee, or did that?
I was born in Ripley, Tennessee, about an hour north of Memphis.
Got it. Okay. Getting some of the rest of the story.
Yes, ma'am.
How you've come to this great conclusion.
You keep asking a lot of questions about me, you're going to see your viewers and your listeners die off. So that's
we're getting to the heart of what inspires you. So okay, we'll shift gears a little bit.
What inspires me is I believe that Tennessee is the best state in the country. I mean, we have a tremendous trajectory. We've got a lot of momentum. There's a reason that people are moving here, and they are choosing to move here because in Tennessee, we err on the side of freedom and liberty in the decisions that we make.
Okay, we could just be done with the podcast right now. That's perfect.
Mic drop. But I mean, seriously, we keep debt low because today's debt is tomorrow's taxes. We're one of the least taxed states in the country. We are on the upward swing when it comes to K through 12 education as well as higher education.
Yeah.
And frankly, one of the things that God gave us that maybe some other places don't have is we have some of the most beautiful terrain and natural beauty in our state. There is something really for everybody here. And what you see is people are moving here because here they have more freedom to become what they were meant to be.
Another mic drop moment. I love it. And that's, so you've touched on a lot of things that kind of inspire the reason we're doing this podcast, because I think to every challenge that those situations present, right, we have these great things, and that's why people are flocking here. And so it creates these challenges of growth that now we have to find a way to manage through that and hopefully plan for it in advance. But some of those, certainly the COVID influx was something that nobody could plan or prepare for.
No, that's right. That certainly accelerated the growth. There's no doubt. I mean, that was really kind of, I think, the eye-opening moment for a lot of people in other states to like, we've got to get out of here and go somewhere where we can thrive, not just survive, but we can thrive. And when I'm visiting with other people around the country, whenever I'm with the Secretary of State or other leaders from Michigan or Oregon or Illinois or other places, none of them tell me about, gosh, how many Tennesseans are moving to their states. However, I see them every day at the Capitol about the ones that are moving to ours.
Yeah. We'll get to some of this topic of election integrity, because I think that's a very timely topic.
Yes,
since we're here, recording in this season, we have a county primary coming up. You have led the Secretary of State office through a period of, I think, a lot of national scrutiny on elections. And there's been some shifts and some changes and some priorities. And I know the Heritage Foundation recognizes that we're doing a lot right in Tennessee, and that credit comes back to you and your office. So kudos, first and foremost. What do you feel as we've implemented some things over the years, what are some of these key safeguards that should give voters confidence in how?
Well, I appreciate you giving me and my team credit. We do have the best coordinator of elections in the country, and Mark Goins, who is now the president of all of the state election directors in the country, that group. So that's really one of the things in our secret sauce. Frankly, the legislature's given us good laws to uphold. If we had bad laws, then it'd be hard for us to go and overcome those. So at the real center of that is we have a legislature that's been focused on it. I'll give a shout out to somebody who, Representative Deborah Maggart years ago sponsored our original photo ID law as the one who got that passed for us back when I first took office as the Secretary of State. And that really started the ball rolling about some of our efforts, And then there are things that, really ought to seem simple. We actually check for dead people on the voter rolls. I mean, we want to make sure dead people are not on the voter rolls. And that really, those are efforts we make and push that information out to the counties. Counties are doing their work as well. When somebody wants an absentee ballot in the state of Tennessee, they make a written request to the local election commission. There's a signature verification piece of that goes on where they match the signature of that request versus the one on the voter file to make sure it's actually that person. On top of that, we don't just mail out ballots to everybody. I mean, I think that's really what you saw back in 2020, especially, is a lot of states made a decision outside of the legislative process to start doing by-mail balloting. They extended the period by which by-mail ballots could be received in after Election Day. In Tennessee, your ballot has to be in by the close of polls on Election Day. We don't start counting those votes till Election Day. And it's not postmarked, it's received by the local election commission. If that ballot comes in the next day, it can't be counted. And one of the things that I think happens in these other states, even though they have well-meaning laws and it's up to them to do it, whenever people go to bed on election or wake up next morning believing they know who the winner is, and they watch the margin continue to change over a period of 7 to 10 days as votes continue to be counted, that casts a shadow of a doubt. And I think one of the things that I really point to, I don't think I do, I really do, is we got bipartisan election commissions, all 95 counties, that by and large work very well together. And Republicans keep an eye on Democrats, Democrats keep an eye on Republicans. When you go to the local polling place, when you check in at that table, you don't really know if that's a Democrat or Republican sitting behind that table, but the whole room is full of people who are in both parties. And at the end of the day, first and foremost, they're Americans. They're Sumner Countyans. They're not sitting there trying to think about what's the Republican thing to do, what's the Democrat thing to do. They're trying to think about how do we make sure every vote is counted once, no more, no less, and to make sure that you can have confidence in the results that you see in those elections.
Yeah, that's, you describe exactly what happens, and it's efficient, and it is, you've touched on where I was going to kind of go next is the fact that you might have a guidance and protocols that we require as a state, but it does fall on the local election commission to implement.
It does. And in fact, I think you and I have discussed this before at different places where we now have random audits that we do of the counties. I mean, on election morning, I draw names out of a hat to determine what counties that we're going to audit. It's not just a running the ballots through again and testing that against what the margin was. It's also about performance audit to make sure the laws, the policies, and procedures are being followed. You know, bless her heart, here in Sumner County, I drew Sumner County out 2 elections in a row, and statistically that never should be able to happen. And poor Sumner County, it happened to them, but they withstood that. But we're doing all kinds of things like that, are good checks and balances on making sure that counties are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I would also tell people, if you have a doubt about how it's being run, you know, they need help. You know, anybody listening to this podcast, call your local election commission and tell them you want to go and help at the polls and help us run elections. You get paid a little bit, but you probably get a greater value in being part of the community and actually gaining greater confidence in it. And every time I mention that, I'll be in a group of people and I'll say, hey, if you don't trust in elections, go volunteer. Somebody will normally raise their hand and say, I had doubts, and once I've been in it, now I see all the different checks and balances that it takes, and I have more confidence than I've ever had.
Yeah. That's a great testimony. And I have a lot of friends that do spend a lot of time volunteering, and it just creates an atmosphere that I think welcomes people to participate.
Yeah. And by the way, with all due respect to the people who are working the polls now, if you walk in the polls, probably the average age of a poll worker is 65 years old, and we're grateful for that. You know, we changed the law back in 2020 to make it where, you know, 16-year-olds, 15, 16-year-olds can work the polls too. So, I mean, and we love that.
Wait, did you say 50 and
15?
15.
So they embrace technology.
Right.
You know, and I've also, even a better benefit of embracing technology is when we bring a couple of our younger Tennesseans into those polling places, and they are side by side with Tennesseans who have been in many cases voting for 45, 50 years. These younger people, they feed off one another, and it just brings the level of excitement and the vibe up in the polling place. And it's very rewarding thing to see.
That's an interesting commentary. I've always thought of country music and like line dancing and golf as the two things that kind of brought those two ends of the spectrum of populations.
Now you can add one more thing.
And now it's that and working at the polls. Yeah, that's
well, you think about it. I mean, as you and I, as we all get older, you want to see the next generation really willing to pick up the baton, because sometimes you have doubts about what is the next generation going to be interested in? And then when you see that there's so many good young people doing really cool things and really wanting to be good citizens and be a part of the community, it warms your heart, makes you want to double down and think, hey, I've got a lot to give too. I've still got a lot to give back to my community.
Totally true. Yeah, you pick up inspiration from a lot of places.
Yes, ma'am.
Younger volunteers, younger voters, and then the older voters. What are your thoughts about our turnout? We need to talk about that challenge.
Great question. So we spend a lot of time talking about voter integrity. If you look at voter registration, voter participation, we're in the bottom 10 states in the country, which bothers me.
Yeah.
Now, if anybody has been watching the NCAA tournament at all, you know, I don't know anybody tuned in to watch the referees. Okay, so they tune in to watch a good basketball game, and so whenever the 1 seed plays the 16 seed and it's not very competitive, you tend to cut it off and think, hey, I'm going to go find a more competitive thing to watch. And so I think a couple of things drive turnout. Number one, competitive races. People want to believe that there is a competitive race where their vote matters. And if they don't believe that their vote's going to be of significance, they tend not to go vote.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate, because probably people like you and I, we go vote every time there's an election. The other thing that really drives people, we create a program called Your Vote Matters, where we push out voting messages through chambers of commerce, through businesses, frankly, anybody that wants to help us do this, helping citizens understand when early voting starts, early voting ends, voter registration deadlines, absentee ballot deadlines, et cetera, and answering how-to questions. But really, if every individual voter who's a regular voter would get someone who is not a regular voter to go with them or encourage them to, whether it's a friend, family member, coworker, colleague, whatever, perfect stranger if you feel so led, we would go from the bottom 10 in voter registration, voter participation to the very top. And in fact, mathematically it'd be impossible, because we hit over 100%. We're not California, so we can't get over 100% voting. I'm kidding. Anybody's listening to California, okay? Don't sue me over that.
That's all right. That's all right. We have plenty of California transplants.
But the real key is we ought to be encouraging other people to go and vote.
Yeah.
And when you don't go vote, all you really do is you turn over the keys of power of government to those that go do vote. And it's a shame to me that whenever we especially have local races, they have the ability to impact your life, not just today, not just for the next 2 to 4 years, but generations to come. is it's a shame that we have, in some cases, less than 10% turnout. And then you kind of flip that on its head. If you got 10% turnout and you got 2 candidates, you really only have to have 5% plus 1 vote to win that race. You have people who are making big decisions that affect our communities across the state who may have gotten elected by approximately 5% of the voters in a district or a county.
Right.
And I just can't imagine why any Tennessean will want to forego their opportunity to have their say in our form of government.
All right, so we'll go back to the soundbite that you said that's so important. If every person that's hearing this that votes, bring 1 more person.
Yeah.
And if, by the way, you're listening and you don't vote, bring 2 people.
Bring yourself and bring somebody else. But I mean, I think one of the things that we shy away from is being willing to have the conversation with others and asking them, hey, are you a registered voter? And it's funny to me, we do vote registration drives. You can tell when people are lying to you. You'll say, hey, are you a registered voter? And they have this awkward, 2-second pause. And yeah. I'm like, no, you're not. I mean, ask people, hey, do you have a plan to go vote? Do you want to go with me? Do you want to ride with me? Hey, when are you going? Stay on your friend and saying, hey, have you gone to vote yet? Candidates and parties are out there working hard to get people to the polls and get them engaged. But, at the same time, if someone goes and, we can cook the food. We can open the doors of a restaurant. We could cook the food. We can't make people come eat it.
No.
And I just wish that everybody would commit themselves to getting everyone in their sphere of influence more engaged. And I think that's what leaders like you and me and others are called to do is, get people to actually go and vote, because without it, we get the government we deserve.
Yeah, very true. Well, I don't know if you can count my vote, but if you ask anybody and my vote counts, I'd certainly authorize you to spend a bunch of money on some massive PSAs and put it up on billboards and local channels and wherever, because I do think that there is this kind of just this missing gap. People they don't see it. It's not in their face enough. And I do think it's one of the greatest, most valuable PSA campaigns we could launch.
And we try, honestly, we use social media a lot, where we engage with traditional media a lot. There also becomes an ROI factor to it that, these are taxpayer dollars.
Of course.
And so how much money can I really spend trying to drive the next marginal vote?
Right. Okay, so you've seen this system, and I'm going to kind of wrap it up with this next bit of conversation. You've seen the system tested in real time. You've had now this very bird's eye view, too, of the state and how Tennessee, you talked about this early on, and how Tennessee has become such a magnet and is such a well-respected part of this great nation. So what gives you confidence in the future? Did I say that right? I don't know.
Well, I'm going to answer the question. I'm going to answer the question I think you asked. And why do I have confidence in our future?
Yes.
And frankly, it comes in today. I was with a group of young leaders from Grundy County, as well as the adult leadership group of Grundy County. I travel the state and I come in contact with Tennesseans who have all different types of backgrounds, blue collar, white collar, some who probably have a lot more zeros and others have in their bank accounts, some who have less. People of all different means, all different skill sets. And I will say it takes all of us, number one. And if you get out and you travel this state and you meet the Tennesseans I've gotten to meet, you know that the only thing that can stop us is us. Mm-hmm. That we've got it right here. That like I said, we err on the side of freedom and liberty, but we better not ever forget that what is really at the heart of every decision we need to make is figure out who the customer is in everything we do in state government. And every decision we make, if we can't figure out how it's moving the needle to secure the safety and the health and the prosperity of our fellow Tennesseans, then we don't need to do that. We need to go find ways to move the needle elsewhere. Yeah. And we've got a lot of great people in the halls of government across this state that are, and at the local level as well, who each and every day in ways big and small are making sure that Tennessee will have the opportunity to continue to thrive.
Absolutely. And it's an exciting year to see how this continues to unfold in the next chapter for Tennessee. So,
well, thank you for the opportunity to come and visit with you.
I appreciate it. We'll see you again.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.